channel.
Welcome back. Let's go through the papers now. And joining us this morning is broadcaster Liz Kershaw and senior reporter for the newspaper, Benjamin Butterworth. And Benjamin, we're going to start with you and this story in the Times. Boris Johnson this is, could agree not to challenge Rishi Sunak in exchange for the promise of a safe seat at the next election. This caught my eye this morning.
Yeah, so there's been a lot of talk in recent weeks, ever since he left office as Prime Minister, about whether he'll challenge Rishi Sunak to be Tory leader and return as PM. Well, the front page of today's Times suggests that there's another game going on, which is that his parliamentary constituency, which is Uxbridge and Ruislip on the edge of London, is probably going to become a Labour seat. And so apparently he's doing a deal with Rishi Sunak to get a new constituency so that he remains as an MP, a safe Tory seat, not that there's going to be many of those left looking at the polls, and so he'll swap seats, and so he's still in Parliament, and that will be in exchange for not challenging Rishi Sunak if the Tories do badly at the local elections. Now, he has form for doing this because he was originally an MP for Henley in Oxfordshire, and then he became Mayor of London. And then to become Prime Minister, he got dropped into the then safe seat of Uxbridge. And so it was a fix for him to get back in, a rather easy fix in that way. So he's done it once before. It looks like he might be doing it again. You kind of wonder that, Rishi Sunak might think, oh, this will stop him trying to take advantage and at least, whip up problems for me on my back benches. But would you also still want him to be there after the next election when he's such a pain for some Tory leaders?
Well, that's what I was going to put to you. I mean, what does Rishi Sunak get out of that agreement?
Well, I suppose he gets short-term relief. I mean, look, all the polling would suggest, and you were discussing it earlier on with your People's poll, that the Tories are not going to stay in office after the next election. So maybe Rishi Sunak...
As things are at the moment.
Yeah, it seems pretty clear, the indication. And so maybe he thinks, well, this will make my life easier while I'm actually Prime Minister. Who cares about opposition?
Liz, there is still the Privileges Committee investigation into Boris Johnson going on. That could be a big fly in the ointment.
Yeah, but apart from that, it just doesn't make sense, because if you say, give me a safe seat and I won't contest you for leader, if he doesn't get a safe seat and he's knocked out, he's out of the way anyway. He can't be leader if he's not a member of Parliament. Yeah. So the story doesn't make sense. But I think that Andrew Bridgen's seat might be coming available because he's been dropped of the Tory whip. He can't stand as a Conservative MP, and he's got a 20,400 majority. I just looked it up, so I'd consider that quite safe.
Yeah.
The thing about a lot of Tory seats, and I live in one, is they've got such huge majorities. We're talking 35,000 majority for the MP. Yeah. Where I live, Andrea Leadsom.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Yeah, and she's not only and Theresa May, she's got the biggest of any female MP, and hers is between 35 and 40,000. Yeah, you're not going to budge that.
No, true. But Reform are thinking of fielding candidates at the next election, aren't they? And with some Lib Dems targeting some seats as well, that'll snip away at that.
I mean, they're polling at something like 4 or 5%, and generally that's not going to get you far. But there might be specific places where there are more sort of right-leaning voters. But I actually think that Boris Johnson at the moment, I mean, it seems very likely that he will lose the seat he currently has, because it's on the edges of London, so it's an area which has naturally been moving away from the Conservatives as it is. And then these are the places where the Lib Dems are doing better than expected. And once you get that, his 7,000 majority that he has at the moment looks very weak. And so, I think you kind of wonder whether it makes sense, as Liz said, but from Boris Johnson's perspective, he's probably, all the polls and the proper polls, not just the general ones that have looked at that seat, they say Boris Johnson won't be an MP after the next election as things stand. So if you're him, you're probably going to be trying anything you can if you still want to be in there.
Yeah, it's more of a long game, isn't it? So if he got a safe seat and got elected as an MP, then he's got another 4 years to become elected as the leader of the party. Yeah. And I still think, talking to people, that the only way the Conservatives will win the next general election is if they get rid of Rishi Sunak, who's seen to be wooden and a traitor and a backstabber, and put in Boris, who seemed to be a motivator and a leader, and is still really
Brenda
popular.
in Bristol would say, another one?
Well, we are having an election next year, aren't we? We've got to. But...
Yeah, they think it'll be next summer. Moving on, Liz. Sweden has found the largest deposit of rare earth metals ever found in Europe. I'm not going to lie. What's this all about?
Well, I thought before people at home said, "Oh God, Liz, what are you going off on here? This is metals. Sweden, it's so boring." Well, it's not, because to make things like car batteries, and we're all going to be forced to have electric cars at some point in the not too distant future, if things keep going the way they are, you need lithium, for example, and
This is what they found, have they? Lithium.
and at the moment, 93% of these rare metals, earth metals, mined in China, and so Chinese have really got a stranglehold on the world and developing certain technologies. For instance, we're going on about wind turbines and should they be on land or should they be in the sea. The big issue is that the centre of a wind turbine is only obtainable, they're manufactured in China, so they all have to be imported. We're dependent on that. The reason that the car industry, people like Jaguar Land Rover, has struggled in the recent years is not just because of the COVID epidemic, but supplies of batteries and microchips. That's why China's got their eye on Taiwan, which is the biggest manufacturer of microchips. If they took that over, they'd have us all held to ransom. So the Swedes are saying, and also Ursula von der Leyen of the EU, they're all saying this is really great news for European countries because we'll be free of the grip of China. So, yeah, I know it sounds boring, but it's actually incredibly important.
Yeah, and it's a self-sufficiency thing, isn't it, Liz? And it's the same thing with our energy. I mean, to be self-sufficient, to keep things in Europe or at least in the UK, it stops us relying on China.
Also,
Russia.
we could make sure that it's mined ethically, not by small children or slave labour, and then people driving around feeling virtuous in their electric cars wouldn't have the unbearable guilt of knowing that a small child has made that possible. I'm sure they are concerned about that.
A silver lining. Ben, you want to say anything about metals, or do you want to?
Yeah, honestly, it goes over my head. But I think Sweden can't rely on pop music to fund its economy forever, right? So metals might help them out.
Yeah,
That's true.
he's a big music buff now, so he knows all about heavy metal.
Yeah, and meatballs and furniture.
Yes, you see, I mean, I love ABBA, so I think I've funded a significant part of the Swedish economy because of my love of ABBA.
Yeah. Just very quickly, you also wanted.
Crumpets.
You want to do? Go on then.
Can we?
Go on then.
We've got time for one more, we're being told, and I like the look of this crumpet one.
Well, don't go to Waitrose in that case, because there's class war has broken out in the supermarket aisles, according to some Warburton's workers, because you can no longer get a Warburton's crumpet in Waitrose, and the suggestion is that they're just not posh enough. In fact, that's exactly what one of the workers outside, they said, too posh for crumpets is Waitrose. And the boss of Warburton's is now very angry at them and saying that they're selling just other much posher versions. So the idea that they're saying that crumpets aren't very popular anymore, that they've declined.
Really?
Do you have a crumpet?
Having said that, I haven't had a
we-
crumpet in a long time.
Yeah, we went through a phase. Yeah, we did.
I had
like
a
'em.
couple at Christmas.
Did you?
Yeah,
Right.
and they were Warburtons, and they were absolutely, because the thing about crumpets is they've got holes in them.
Yeah.
So you spread butter on, it disappears,
And it
so you have to
disappears in
put
the hole.
more on.
Yeah.
And then you bite it, and all this hot butter runs down your chin.
Yeah.
And Warburtons also.
Make me hungry.
I'm a big fan, because, you know, they're from Bolton, and I was brought up on them. But they also now make these big 4-inch square crumpets. With
Yeah, I've seen
perfect
them. Super
sauce.
crumpets, yeah.
They're absolutely fantastic. Also, Warburton's potato cakes with bacon and egg.
Okay.
And Warburton's
commission.
thickest toasty.
Other brands are available and
Say.
can be just as good, I should say. But yeah, big fan of the crumpet. Is it the word crumpet? Do you think it's
I
that?
hate the word.
If you called it something a bit more French, then maybe in Waitrose they would sell it.
Well,
Don't say it like that. But
Le crumpet.
if you go to Waitrose, you can buy a sourdough crumpet. That's the only one.
I was about
you
to
can
say,
get.
what's the posh alternative?
Yeah.
It would be something sourdoughy, wouldn't it?
Apparently, the Warburton's ones are 85p, but the Waitrose ones are £1.35.
Wow.
So it is. People apparently are too posh for the crumpets.
I can't believe that.
And your Waitrose sales are in decline.
I wonder why
events
not selling crumpets.
Yeah,
Let us know, are
exactly.
you a fan of a humble crumpet? GBNEWS at gbnews.uk. Are you too posh for a crumpet? Let us know. Wait yourself.
Thank you, Ben. Thank you, Liz. Thank you very much.
Thank you
More
very
from them
much.
in the next hour. You're watching Breakfast on GB News. Good to have you with us. It's 7:46.